Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Pentester Recruiter podcast. Really excited for this week's episode with my good friend Tyler Ramsbey. Tyler, how you doing, bro?
Hey, I am doing well. It is truly an honor to be here. So thank you, my man, for the invitation.
No, thank you for coming on. For anyone that doesn't know who Tyler is, first question, I don't know where you've been because he's everywhere online. I'm going to do a bit of an intro, Tyler. Tyler's fairly new into pen testing, but his career progression, as far as I'm concerned, has been on steroids. He's absolutely pushing forward. He got a shout out from TCM, the cyber mentor, saying that this is a guy you need to be following in the community if you're bothered about career progression, doing stuff on Twitch. I've seen you doing stuff on cloud security. You're everywhere on LinkedIn. Your personal brand's really strong. Your collection of certifications, mate, is just what I would class as the optimal level. The stuff you're doing with cloud, OSAP, like everything, mate. Honestly, I'm not just saying it. Like your career trajectory it's awesome. It's abnormally strong. And I can see why, because you're doing a lot of things right. So, look, Tyler, I've done you a bit of an intro, but for anyone that doesn't know who Tyler Ramsbey is, just who are you, mate, and what you've been up to?
Yes, given my story, a very short version of it. I'm sure I'll spend a little bit of time into this. I've only been in really full-time IT for almost 3 years now. I switched over during the COVID-19 pandemic, and we can maybe talk about that more later. But I've always been interested in IT. Actually got in trouble in school and high school for trying to hack stuff in school. So I've always had an interest, but didn't do it really professionally full-time until that COVID-19 pandemic. I was actually in pastoral ministry for 10 years. So I have a master's of divinity degree. And at least here in the States, what that means is I spent 3 years studying theology, philosophy, Greek, Hebrew, history, public speaking, counseling. So that was my life for 10 years. I actually started a church, led a church, a lot of entrepreneurial stuff in my background. And when I switched over to IT, I wanted to get into pen testing. So my first job was just IT support level 1. And I was thinking, like, how can I break into pen testing? Because the problem is, to get a pen testing role, generally you need pen testing experience. So you have that really, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And so I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use my prior communication skills from doing speaking every single weekend to usually crowds of people, and let me see if I can create content. So I just started a YouTube channel and just started sharing what I was learning. So it was not, I still don't come off as an expert. Like I really just stumble through things. And as I'm working through the room, I try Hack Me or Hack the Box. I just stream it and I talk as I do it. And I've also interviewed some cool leaders. So I've interviewed people like Heath Adams, John Hammond, Matt Kiley, InfoSec Pat. So some of these other leaders in the field. I've just had what I'm doing with you. I even told you before we started, usually I'm the one interviewing others. I'm usually not the interviewee. Started that and started Twitch as well, just to get to know more people. And I live in a small town in the States, in the state of South Dakota, with my wife and 2 young kids. So yes, very busy even outside of the content creation career stuff, but it's been a blast. It's been a good journey.
Wicked, mate. And listen, there's loads for me to get stuck into there. And for anyone listening, so I'm actually just back on your LinkedIn profile now. If you're wondering why I'm looking down at my phone, Tyler. So 7 months you've been at Rhino Labs. So it's hard at that end of the market. I always say on the pod, at the level I'm recruiting at, the kind of principal, senior, and director level, very candidate led. But at the junior end, it's fiercely competitive. It's hard to get into. You've got to do stuff to stand out. And I know you've told me a bit of a story about how the kind of Rhino Labs thing came about. And I think it's really relevant because you showed some real character there, some real like strong levels of grind and persistence. And can you just remind me and can you tell the listeners of how things went down there? So I think it's really helpful for people.
Yeah, I'll give a little bit of context there. I am at Rhino Security Labs. I am a pen tester that I've been there for 7 months. So my main focus is web apps. I also do external pen tests, APIs. I'm getting into AWS stuff. I would love to do some internal pen testing in the future, but that is where I'm at. And what's cool about Rhino, so just a shout out to Rhino. First, this is my only pen testing job, so I don't know how other pen testing jobs will work, but I know a lot of like associate pen testers, from what I've seen online anyways, it's a lot of just like, you have to write the report or you're doing review type stuff. At Rhino, we do everything. So I do the full engagement from beginning to end, hands-on. Most of my day is spent doing hands-on technical keyboard stuff. And then of course a day for report writing. But when it came to Rhino Security Labs, the way I got this role is my friend Nate actually got hired before me, and he actually got the OSAP before me. And I reached out to Rhino after Nate was hired and just said, hey, you guys hire my friend Nate. If you're ever hiring another pen tester, would love to be considered, would love to have a conversation, just assuming they weren't hiring anymore. And to my surprise, they were still actually hiring. So they reached back out to me saying that they were interested in the conversation. So I went through 2 interviews. I passed the first kind of technical interview. And then the second interview is actually with the founder of Rhino, which you can imagine it's a little bit intimidating. Like, I see I'm meeting with the CEO founder for my second interview. And I thought it went okay. But then it was only a couple of hours after the interview, I got an email, which generally speaking, if you get an email only a couple hours after the interview, it might be really good or it's not going to be good for you. And in the email, what Rhino told me was, hey, you're not at the level that we are looking for pen testing, which of course I'm not. I've never done pen testing. But they said, you have some qualities that we think can be really good, and we'd like to just touch base in 10 days and see where you're at. Now, initially, I saw that as a soft way just telling me no. And to be honest, I wasn't even going to pursue it. I was in the process of getting my OSAP. So my OSAP was coming up. I did not have 10 days to step away from studying for the OSAP to maybe get this job. I talked to my friend Tinas. Tinas is actually a red team content engineer for Try Hack Me, as well as a lead of consultancy for a pen testing company in South Africa, and just sent the message to him like, dude, what do I do? And I'll just highlight, this is the importance of community. I wouldn't have pursued this without mentors around me encouraging me to pursue it. But Tina's told me like, hey, the fact that they took the time to recognize those qualities about you and give you these 10 days, they sound like a really solid firm. You don't have anything to lose. Like, just go for it. And so I came to the conclusion, if I fail the OSAP, but I get a pen testing job, then who cares? Like, my goal of getting the OSAP was to get a pen testing job. So I took 10 days. This is while I was working full time at another job. And so I'd work during the day, and then every night I just grinded it out. In those 10 days, I went through, close to 30 or 40 port Swigger labs, since it was a web app pen testing job, documented everything that I did, created my own web app hacking guide where I documented each main attack path step by step on how to find it and exploit it. And then I took the Juice Shop web application, which is a vulnerable web app, and did a full mock pen test on the Juice Shop web application. I went to Rhino Security Labs website, and there's a spot where you can download a sample pen test report. So I downloaded a sample pen test report from Rhino so I could see how they format things, how they explain vulnerabilities. And then I modeled my own pen test report after the one I got from the Rhino website with the Juice Shop app, showing that I totally am not at the level that you probably need me to be. But what I can show you is I can learn quickly, I can improve, and when needed, I can really grind things out. So they didn't tell me what to do in those 10 days. They gave me some resources like, hey, check out Port Swigger Academy, check out these things, but didn't say document stuff. But I figured I got nothing to lose. I'm going to go hard, document everything, create a mock pen test report, submitted it to them like the day before my follow-up interview. And then really, they didn't even call it an interview. They called it a conversation. But in that follow-up conversation, it really turned into a technical debrief where I debriefed Rhino on my mock pen test report, everything I did, and then that turned into a job offer. So actually I have a video on YouTube. If you go to my YouTube page, I think it's called I'm officially a professional hacker, something like that. But I talk about how I turned a rejection into a yes in 10 days.
Mate, Tyler, I love that story. It's wicked. I'm just going to break that down for the listeners because I feel like there's 2 components to that story. There's what you did technically, and there's kind of the resilient mindset piece with how you reacted. And I think they're both equally as important. Just for the listeners, so there was a vulnerable Juice Shop web app on the technical side. There was Port Swigger web academies, 30 to 40 labs. And there was the fact that you really use your initiative and you went on and looked at how Rhino Labs like to see a report displayed, formatted, and all the rest of it. So they're the technical things that you did. And then look, in terms of mindset, you've tapped into a mentor, utilizing community, which is huge. I just think I've used the word initiative, I think once or twice now, but I just think you've used so much initiative there. You've stayed positive. It would, Tyler, I don't know if you probably do realize, maybe you don't, but so many people at that point would have gone, oh, here we go. Another rejection. That's the 3rd or 4th rejection I've had this month. This is ridiculous. There's no such thing as a skills gap. And it would have been so easy to play the victim at that stage, but you didn't. And mate, that's honestly, hats off to you. You deserve, like I say, you deserve to be where you are because that, and also that's a true hacker mindset as well. Because you're not not looking around in a system and getting in and out. Nothing. You're literally persistence and Well done, mate. It's wicked. There's a lot we can learn from that. But how did you feel when you first got that email? Was it easy to just do all that, or did you have to force yourself? Or
Yeah, it totally wasn't easy. So I felt, in some ways, I felt defeated. But even then, what I learned, at least from in the pastoral world, so if anyone's listening to this and they have experience being a pastor, maybe there's a pastor in their family, there's something interesting that I think both pastors and people in cybersecurity can suffer with. And that is finding their identity too closely in what they do rather than who they are becoming. So what I mean by that, even in the pastor world, a lot of pastors continue in ministry even though they're burnt out and exhausted, which often leads to moral failure because they can't see themselves outside of being a pastor. They identify in an unhealthy way with their career. And I've noticed that's the same with cybersecurity and pen testing. People can identify far too closely with what they do in an unhealthy way. And when that doesn't pan out, they're just broken. They lead to a place of depression. And I actually spent a lot of time in therapy when I was in the pastoral world working through that in myself. And so I have, I think, a healthy detachment to what I do as a career. Who I am becoming as a person, my role as a husband, my role as a father is much more important to me than looking like elite hacker online or in any other brand or platform. And so that healthy detachment helps me that if I am rejected, it's like, all right, who cares? I've already changed my career once. I've even joked with my wife that being a lawyer seems like fun. Maybe I'll do this pen testing thing for a few years. So let's just change careers again. Let's see how many careers I can do in one lifetime. So I wanted to be a pen tester, but wasn't totally defeated because I think of that healthy detachment. And I had a few other pen testing jobs. I think two other ones that I interviewed before then. And each time, like, my strength is definitely my communication, just because I did that for so long. I'm able to do well in interviews, answer questions, ask questions, things like that. My weakness, of course, was the technical side of things, just because I had never done it before. So one pen testing interview, I made it through the people part, the interview part, and they gave me a hands-on skills assessment. And it was like reviewing Java code, which I still don't know how to review Java code very well. I don't do code reviews. And I tried it for 2 days and I just emailed them like, y'all, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so stuck. And they sent me some resources to help me. So this wasn't my first like interview. I've been through a couple, and a lot of them I didn't even get to the interview part of it. Like, even one example is Heath Adams. I applied for a couple of jobs at TCM Security and I didn't even get to the interview portion. But then I reached out to Heath and I was like, hey, can I interview you on my YouTube channel? So I totally flipped it. He never interviewed me, but I interviewed him on YouTube and Twitch. And now he knows who I am. And he's a solid dude. So it's just like, you have to have a healthy detachment from what you're doing. And then when I got the rejection email, once again, as I shared before, community is so important. I would not have pursued that. I would have pursued the OSAP. I passed that as well, but I would have just focused on that if it wasn't for my friend Tinas and getting advice from him. And I think as pen testers, cybersecurity personality types, we're often introverted, which I am. I can totally fake that I'm an extrovert, but super introverted. But because of that, we have a tendency to retreat and not build that deep community. And to succeed in this industry, really any industry, it takes that sense of community and friendship, from my perspective.
Yeah, of course. Don't become a lawyer, mate. We'll miss you. I'm not following you if you're a lawyer. Stay in the offensive security community. No,
Absolutely.
thanks. Yeah, no, thanks, Tyler. And I just want to move on to your personal brands, Mega. I think everyone can benefit from it, but just to break it down, if you're a junior listening, like you just epitomise, make unapologetically, I'm going to say it again, but making your resume 3D. Like, you've got so much more depth to what you do than most, because of the stuff like the YouTube channel, like Twitch, like being active online, like the Discord channel that we'll come on to shortly. But I think if you're a junior listening, the benefits are obvious. You're going to get a foothold on the market where others won't. I think if you're mid to senior level, your career progression is going to be enhanced. And I think if you're a business owner listening as well, I know from clients, offline conversations I'm currently having with clients, employers are really starting to recognize this now. If you've got a team of pen testers and they're all giving back to the community, paying forward, getting involved, it's great for everyone. Everyone's sense of purpose is enhanced. The community benefits, so everyone's career progression is enhanced. But that company's brand's enhanced as well. It's like everything. It's like win. So it really helps. And I think for anyone that's not getting with this, I think it's really important. But probably a really long-winded way, Tyler, of me asking you my next question, which is, can you tell us a bit more about your personal brand, everything you're doing? Was it easy at the start? Was it uncomfortable at the start? and how's it benefited you and others so far?
Yeah, I'll maybe answer that from two different perspectives. One, a very practical, like how to get started. So if someone's listening to this and they say, how do I get started with content creation? The answer, and it sounds a little silly, is like, yo, just do it. The only way you get good at making content is you start making content. The only way you get good at live streaming is you start live streaming. Like you have to just dive into it. And the first couple of times that you do it, you're going to feel like the biggest fool. At least I do. Even now I do. When I'm on Twitch, which I've been on Twitch every night working through the Red Team Capstone by Try Hack Me, and I don't prep my stuff ahead of time. So here's what's different between me and other content creators. A lot of cybersecurity content creators, I'll go through like a room on Try Hack Me or Hack the Box. They'll spend 4 hours struggling through it, but then they have their notes and they do a short 10-minute walkthrough for YouTube, and you watch it and you're like, hold up. Like, how did you find that? How did you come to that conclusion? Yo, I just wing it. So on Twitch, I'm going through it live. There's no prep ahead of time. So you can watch me stumble. You can learn from my methodology. But I still have that issue where, like, when you know someone's watching your screen, you forget how to type. Like, you forget the most basic things. And the only way to overcome that is, once again, do it. So that would be my advice. Just get started. And then another practical tip is when it comes to content creation, worry more about the audio quality before you care about the video quality. I think good audio quality is key to good content. Video, you can figure out in the process. I make all my stuff in my basement here. I work from home. I'm remote. And my basement's unfinished. So like my brick wall behind me is a piece of fabric hung up between two photo things. This is not like a real wall. I can hit it and it's fabric, but it looks nice on video, and it's $20 off Amazon. My microphone's a little more high end, but that's because I used to do music in the past. But you get a $100 USB mic. That's good enough. I have a $90 Logitech camera, so nothing super expensive, but audio is really important. So get a nice external microphone from my perspective to get the good audio going first, and then just start creating content, whether it's working through rooms on Try Hack Me, whether it's making short videos, depending on what your goal is. I think it's less important what the content is about and more important that you make content and that you are consistent with it. I've also noticed a lot of people, even in my circle, who get inspired to create content from like the John Hammonds of the world, and they do really good for a month, and then they realize, wow, this is actually really hard. And even John Hammond has come out with videos on what it's like to be a content creator. It's not easy to constantly having to produce stuff, especially like all my content I mainly make outside of work. Like when I'm off work, I get my kids to bed and I'm back on in the evening working on creating content. So just make sure you make content, and when you start, you are consistent. Once a week, a couple times a week if you are able, but be consistent about it. And I think you'll be in awe at the results that come out of consistency. I think the other side of it, you were asking about my own journey from my personal brand, and I shared how I started. All the advice I shared is what I did. Now, I already had experience making content by leading a church and starting a church. I was always talking on video and making different marketing material. So I had that background already. And so I just decided, let me try to make IT content instead of theology content, and let's see how it goes. But I knew nothing. So I would just take like a room, even if you go to my early videos, I would just go through like the basic cybersecurity room on Try Hack Me and literally just read the room as I work through it and share my thoughts, and have the willingness to look silly because I don't know what I'm doing much of the time because I'm just winging it as I go through it. But you have to get over that fear. And I think the reason my content has been helpful to other people is they can see themselves in me. They're like, oh, I'm not the only dumb person who, instead of copying out of their terminal, doing control shift C or whatever, they do control C and they close the entire terminal in the process running. I'm not the only person who does that. So it's a little more relatable. And then as far as the personal brand, the one other thing I would really encourage people is don't be a jerk. Heath Adams just released a LinkedIn post about this today, but the cybersecurity world is really small. And if you're a jerk to one person, it's a really good way to not be known in a good way in the industry. For example, I'm not going to drop this person's name, but someone came out at me calling me a scammer once because I was looking for other people to stream on my Twitch channel. And I don't know a whole lot about Twitch, and I might even script the terminology now, but there's Twitch followers and Twitch subscribers. My Twitch has followers, I think is the correct terminology. I make no money from Twitch or YouTube, but I accidentally called them subscribers because on YouTube they're called subscribers. And I said in my post, I don't make any money, looking for people to help. And this person like went off thinking I was making all this money from Twitch and was looking for like free help. And they went on another person on KevTech, my friend, went on his status and yeah, Tyler Ramsbey, he's a scammer. Don't listen to him, and just went off on me. And then of course I'm not a scammer, but it's things like that. Be very nice, be very kind, be very gentle to other people in the industry. Just like that's what you should do as a human being. But knowing the industry is so small and you don't want to ruin your personal brand by just being a jerk. So, hey, be nice. It's one of the best tips I can give.
Yeah, do you know what? It's so much easier to be nice. Being not nice is much harder work. But yeah, no, definitely being nice. And look, going back to the consistency, Tyler, I know from offline conversations we've had, I know you're passionate about this, you care, you want to help other people. If you're not, I don't think you can do it. You've got to actually care, because a few points there resonated with me. If you're posting on a regular basis or doing things like this on a regular basis, there is loads of times when you don't feel like it, or you don't have time, or you've got to make the time, and this, that. You've got to really care, man.
You do. And it's a tough thing. Like, people talk about burnout, which I think burnout can be real depending on how you approach it. But the thing that we need to remember, regardless of your industry, like I even made this post not too long ago, your job like really isn't that important. And I shared this before about that healthy detachment. But in my role, like my wife gets one husband, my kids get one dad. Rhino Security Labs can have a bunch of different pen testers, and YouTube can have a bunch of different content creators. So even if it starts affecting my family or things are out of balance, I will quit all this stuff because once again, it's not that important. Keep first things first. Do not sacrifice your family on the altar of your personal brand or the altar of career success. If you succeed in your career, but you fail in your family, I would argue you have not truly succeeded. So just keeping that, I think, healthy balance there is important.
Yeah, no, definitely, mate. Definitely. Thanks, Tyler. Just another thing as well. You're talking about the on the subject of brand, and we talk about how people have maybe an unhealthy attachment to what they're doing. Do you think, I feel like all these kind of hackers coming out, and whether it's yourself or whether it's, I know we've mentioned, I had InfoSec Pat on the pod the other week. We've not released it yet. I know we've mentioned people like Heath Adams, but it's all still quite new. Like hackers coming out and being really open about what they're doing. I feel like obviously the old stereotype was hoodie up, don't talk to anyone. So do you feel like maybe certain hackers that could give loads to the community are in that mindset of this is how a hacker should be? They need to be underground. They need to be dark. And could that be holding people back, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And some of it comes back to OPSEC, and I may not be the best person for OPSEC. So for those who may not know what that is, it's operational security. And the whole idea behind OPSEC is hiding your real identity so that if there's a troll or a hater, they cannot do things like swat you when you're live on stream, which can, or order pizzas to your house, a less severe case, which can get honestly really dangerous, really unkind, really quick. So they encourage good OPSEC. This is my real name. Like Tyler Ramsbey is not my screen name. And I think that's maybe a struggle that hackers have. And to be honest, I do not know the right answer. For me, I just use my name because it's hard to create a good personal brand without using your real name. I have friends on Discord, and then like they'll comment on my LinkedIn stuff, and I don't know who they are because I can't make the connection between Elite Hacksaw and John, right? Like it's hard for me to make that connection between their screen name and their real identity. So part of it is you do need to come to a place where you're comfortable having your identity out there. It's hard to practice OPSEC and build your personal brand by using your real name. And once again, I do not know the right way to approach that, but this is how I've done it. And so far it's worked well for me. I know obviously Heath Adams, that's his real name. John Hammond, that's his real name. And so there's other creators out there besides me who are using their real identity, using their real names, but they even have some warning stories of things you should still be careful about. As far as that kind of dark stereotype, yeah, I think there's a lot of content creators who could add a lot of value, but they don't for two reasons. One is that they're just not comfortable socially speaking. But even if you're not comfortable like doing what we're doing right now, having this conversation, being on camera or being on audio, you can contribute through writing. So there's so many excellent blog posts and GitHub accounts. You can contribute that way. But then the other fear is like, what do I have to contribute? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not even a pen tester yet. I'm a total noob in the field. And I would say that's a great place to start because people can follow your journey from where you're at today to where you're going to be in 5 years. And they can see that progression, and you can inspire other people who feel like they're a noob and they have nothing to contribute and they don't know what to do here. You have something to contribute. Every one of us has something to contribute to the infosec industry at large. And from my experience talking to some of the top leaders, people are very open in this field. So even John Hammond, I had 100 subscribers on YouTube, was truly, no one knew who I was. And I cold emailed John Hammond and I was like, hey, dude, big fan of your content. If you never respond to this email, totally get it because you don't know who I am. But hey, would love to interview you on YouTube and just hear more of your journey and share you with other people. And to my surprise, he emailed me back and he's, yeah, here's my link. Let's set up an invite. Didn't charge me anything. And once again, I had 100 subscribers on YouTube and somehow interviewed John Hammond. I didn't do anything special. People are just really open in the field, but you have to also put yourself out there to build those connections with some of those names and those people.
If anyone means, thanks, Tyler, if anyone wonders what we mean by just do it, that is what we mean. Like, you've just bang, emailed, cold, like you say, might not have heard back. Say, I know you did the same with Heath Adams as well, and obviously that's really helped. So really just do it. I think just another point I want to pick up on as well is, I know we talk a lot about anyone that's not doing content creation and we're saying just do it. For anyone that is and they want to improve, just a few points that I want to make is, you've mentioned a few things about just, you're quite, not quite, you are authentic online, you're quite vulnerable online. You talked about jumping in out the box and completely winging it. By the way, for everyone listening, me and Tyler were in DMs yesterday, and normally I do a bit of prep and this, that, and the other. Tyler was like, nah, we'll just wing it. And I was like, yeah, we'll just freestyle. I think for anyone, the point I'm making here is for anyone wanting to improve their content creation, I think being vulnerable online, being real, not being too refined. I think especially for whatever reason since COVID, we've all just, I think, relaxed and people just want that authenticity. And I think you do that pretty well, bro. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it's cheesy. Be yourself is good advice. It's cheesy advice that we learn in elementary school when we're young kids, but it's good advice for right now. Be yourself online, and hopefully yourself is friendly. And even in the content creation field, it's helpful to keep it a little bit PG, right? So if you're dropping like the F word every other line, your content might have a little bit of less reach. So if that is like your natural way of speaking, you might want to refine that a little bit before you live stream. Pre-edited videos, you can edit that out, but that's just like one thing that people don't think about, that if that is in your language, like no big deal if that's how you talk. But if you are live streaming, you just want to be careful on that because that is going to limit your audience. Even YouTube, if you try to like monetize on YouTube, YouTube will limit your content depending on what is in your content. So it's just something that I don't think people think about. Watch your language. That's the other like kid thing. Be yourself and watch your language, and that'd be my advice there.
Yeah, definitely. And you're not going to appeal to everyone. Not everyone's going to like you. Some people are going to love you. Some people are just going to think whatever, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. And I think that's the best way to be. The minute you start trying to please everyone, I think ultimately you probably please no one. So I think it's, just like I say, just what you said, just be yourself. And yeah, cool. Discord channel. Can we talk about that, please, mate? Because there's a lot going on there. And for anyone that doesn't know, WorkSmarter, Tyler's Discord channel. I'll let you fill the listeners in, my friend.
Yeah, so the WorkSmarter community is a community we started. So I actually have two Discords. We have a Rhino Discord and WorkSmarter, but let me talk about WorkSmarter first. That's kind of the one I founded. So this would have been, looking down at my calendar, 2, maybe 3 years ago now, me and my friend Nate, who once again is the one who got hired at Rhino. So we started this journey together, and now we're both pen testers at Rhino. It's been cool how that worked out. Me and Nate grew up together. So we were real life friends in high school. We got our computer rights taken away in high school for trying to hack stuff. We actually got to the point that we had 3 strikes against us. So for a year, neither of us could touch computers in high school. And now we both hack stuff for a living. So it's pretty crazy how that worked out. But we were both wanting to really change careers and get into pen testing roles, but we didn't see how to do that. All we could see is that HR wants the OSCP. Whatever your thoughts are on OffSec, I won't go off on them here, but whatever your thoughts are on OffSec, OSCP is still the gold standard in HR's eyes to get a pen testing job. But the OSCP is, of course, notoriously a difficult cert to get. You have that 24 hours to hack machines, you're proctored, all that crazy stuff. And so we thought, we don't know how to get here, but what we do know is we need help being held accountable, because each one of us on our own would go for 3 months hard studying for the OSCP and then stop because we got busy or other things were going on. So we're like, hey, let's just start meeting, dude, once a week. I think it was Monday nights even then. and we'll meet on Monday night. Back then, it was just a Facebook chat between the two of us, and we would jump on, like, I think Facebook video or maybe Zoom. I don't remember what platform we used. And we just answered two questions. What did you accomplish this past week? What are your learning goals for this upcoming week? The third question, did you accomplish your previous goals? If not, what changes do you need to make to your schedule, to your discipline, so you better accomplish your goals? So it started out with just the two of us. That expanded, I think, to five of us, once again in a Facebook group chat. And then one member of that group chat, my friend Jack Neely, said, hey, it's getting hard to follow a Facebook chat. We should start a Discord group just for us. And so we have a better place to communicate. Just a few of us 2 years ago, like 5 or 6 of us, but that has now expanded to a community of over 2,000 people. I think we're at 2,500 people, a really active community there. And still the lifeblood of our community are those Monday meetings. So I still host the meeting every Monday night at 9 p.m. Central Time. And instead of one or two of us, is usually anywhere from 10, 20, sometimes 30 people all across the world. So we have people in each meeting from the United States. We have people who join from Egypt, people who join from South Africa, people who join from Pakistan, people who join from India, all in this meeting together. So it's really cool to see, man, all these countries represented, all these backgrounds and cultures represented, but all working towards improving ourselves professionally and personally. And in those meetings, we ask the same questions. What did you accomplish this past week? What are your learning goals for this upcoming week? And what changes do you need to make to your schedule? And I will just say, if anyone wants to join those meetings and you join the WorkSmarter community, the thing I'm very clear about in my announcements for it, as well as when I host it, is you're under no obligation to participate. So it can be really intimidating to jump on voice chat with a bunch of strangers. So I always tell people, just say you want to pass in the chat if you don't want to talk, and you're welcome to just be that fly on the wall and see how the meeting goes until you're comfortable to participate. So would encourage people to check that out. We have a lot of other things going on in that channel. We have some content creators, resources. We do resume review, career prep. So we have a resume review channel where you can post your resume to get some help with it. And we'll even do mock interviews for people as well. So if you have an interview or a job coming up and you pick me or the mods, we'll set up a mock interview and we'll run through the whole interview process. We've seen people get jobs that way. And here's the craziest thing, and no one believes me when I say this because they think I'm selling something. None of it is behind a paywall. All of it is free. I make no money from the content that I create. I make no money from the Discord. So truly, there are no strings attached to joining that Discord. You don't have to pay anything. All of it's free, a good way to grow in your career. So that's the WorkSmarter Discord. The Rhino Security Labs Discord is something relatively new that I started with Rhino because I was like, hey, we should have a Discord. And they actually had one, but they didn't have anyone to take ownership of it. So I took ownership of that. And the Rhino Security Labs Discord is very similar. It's a lot smaller. I think we're at like 600 members, but it's pretty new as well. But that one, the WorkSmarter, is general IT. There is a pen testing focus because I'm one of the admins. Rhino is, of course, all pen testing. So that's where we can get into the nitty gritty details about active pen testers, how to become a pen tester. We have channels dedicated to different cloud services. Of course, Rhino is known for AWS pen testing. We have come out with a bunch of cool tools like Paku, which is almost Metasploit for the cloud. We have CloudGo, which is a vulnerable AWS instance to teach you AWS pen testing. And Discord is where we post all of our new releases. I hosted a workshop there to how to set up CloudGo and learn AWS pen testing. So I'm also creating content over in the Rhino Discord. So I'll send you a link after this and we can drop that in the YouTube channel for people who want to join there. And we also, through Rhino, recently launched career services offering. We've only done the first iteration of it, but once again was an idea I brought to the team and they were all on board with it. And what that looks like is we actually have an application process that we open quarterly. We had, I think, around 60 people apply for our first iteration of it. And then we select one person to be our candidate. It does not cost them anything, but what that one person gets is they get a full resume review by the entire pen testing team. So each pen tester looks at the resume and we almost QA it. We leave comments on it, things that we would encourage them to approve. That candidate also gets to do a mock interview with our senior pen tester and the CEO of Rhino, Ben. So they get to meet like the leadership of Rhino free to do a full mock interview to see what it's like to interview for a pen testing role. We record that interview, the rest of the pen testers watch it, and we provide personalized feedback for that candidate, send that over to them just to help them become a pen tester, even if it has nothing to do with Rhino. And once again, Rhino makes no money off of that. We don't charge them anything. It's just our way of giving back to the community. So those are two Discord communities I'm an admin in that I would encourage people to join. WorkSmarter, Rhino Security Labs, and ping me if you can. If there's anything I can help people with, I will do my best to assist and help on this incredible cybersecurity journey.
Mate, brilliant. Mate, you're doing so much, mate. I absolutely love it. So the WorkSmarter is every Monday, hosted by you. What time does that start, Tyler?
Yeah, so it'll be Mondays at 9 p.m. CST, Central Standard Time, here in the
Okay.
US. We have people all over the world, so you just got to translate it to your time zone.
Yeah, no, cool. Yeah, no, that's fine. And the Rhino Labs one, what day and time is that again?
Yeah, so there's not a meeting right now in Rhino Security Labs. We'll host workshops occasionally, but they're not like
Okay.
set every single week. We've had conversations about office hours and things like that, but we haven't moved forward with any of that yet. So that's more sporadic of different workshops and events that we host.
Okay, cool. And the Rhino Labs one with all the resume review, interview tips, stuff like that, is that predominantly just juniors coming in, or are mids and seniors coming into that as well? What's the kind of split on that?
Yeah, so just to be clear, so WorkSmarter, we do the resume review for anyone and everyone. Rhino is that more application process where we only select one person each quarter just because we're limited on time and resources. On that, it's for those who want to break into pen testing. So we try to be clear about that. If you're already a pen tester, this probably isn't going to help you. And to be honest, we're probably not going to choose you. We're looking for people who have not had the benefits, maybe formal benefits of other people. So if you have a master's degree in the OSAP and PNPT and CPTS and all these incredible pen testing certs, like you don't need our help to break into pen testing. You're going to be able to do it. But if you're just unsure about direction, but you demonstrate a clear passion for pen testing, and you would find value in getting a resume review from us and going through a mock interview with us, those are the people we're looking for. So I wouldn't even say junior pen testers yet, but rather those who are going to become junior pen testers are the target of that career services application process.
Cool. Brilliant. Rhino Labs for juniors, WorkSmarter for everyone else.
You got it. Yeah, and even so, I should clarify a little bit. Just the application processes for juniors. The Rhino Security Labs Discord itself is for everyone, especially mid and senior pen testers, because of the other training we offer through there and the conversations we have. Hopefully, I clarified that properly.
You did, thank you, mate. Honestly, like there's so much there, Tyler, and it's so good. If I'm a junior now, though, listening, going like Twitch, Rhino Discord, WorkSmarter Discord, something else going on, AWS, I'm like my head's spinning. Like I'm on board with what we're talking about. I know I want to build a personal brand. I haven't really done too much yet, but my mindset's right. I want to move forward. Can we get a bit granular? Like, if I'm starting today, what's my plan of action for the next? Because I know from some of the questions I'm getting in DMs, I think we need to go pretty granular. So, next 6 months, what shall I do?
Absolutely. Next 6 months, I would say join the WorkSmarter Discord and come to our Monday meetings every Monday for the next 6 months to hold you accountable to your career goals. So that'd be one. And the reason I would emphasize that piece so much is because of the mutual accountability built into it. You may have a plan for those next 6 months, but if no one's asking you questions every single week and following up with you, you're not going to get that plan. You need community. You need people around you. So if you do not have that already in a different community, come to WorkSmarter. Would love to meet you on a Monday night. So that's step one. Step two, if you want to begin developing your personal brand and getting into content creation, live stream the Red Team Pathway from Try Hack Me. So the Red Team Pathway is like 50 plus hours of Red Team training that Try Hack Me is super affordable platform each month in order to get like the VIP membership. And they just released a Red Team Capstone, which I'm live streaming. But the Red Team Capstone is, of course, a capstone for the Red Team Pathway. The Red Team Pathway is one of the best pathways I have ever done to learn offensive security in a more in-depth way, going everything from AV evasion. So if, depending on your experience, if you're not comfortable with basic pen testing, maybe don't do the Red Team Pathway. There's other pathways on Try Hack Me. But if you are and trying to get in that junior pen tester role and build your brand, start live streaming the entire Red Team Pathway because no one has done that yet. And the couple of videos I made on the Red Team Pathway have gotten a lot of views because I think no one has streamed that and a lot of people have questions on it. So work through the Red Team Pathway yourself for your own learning, but as you're learning, stream yourself going through it, and you'll be surprised at how many people you get just from that one specific pathway. And you're accomplishing two goals that way. You're learning better red teaming skills yourself, and you're creating content in the process, and you're connecting with an audience. So those are my two things. Join the WorkSmarter community, start going through the red teaming pathway, and stream yourself going through the red teaming pathway to begin building your personal brand and building that audience. And I think you'll be surprised at where you end up in 6 months and the connections that you make.
Definitely. Thank you, mate. Brilliant. Thank you. So that's personal branding. That's not only going to enhance your personal brand, it's going to definitely enhance your technical skills. It's probably going to enhance your communication skills. You're going to get used to the feeling of being uncomfortable, which is actually really good because that means you're growing. So if I go on to certifications, I know we've touched upon it. What certifications do you think, if I'm a junior pen tester, I should be getting? What timeline should I put on it? How much money should I be budgeting? What should I be doing to prepare? Any tips for preparing? I know you got OSCP last year, so anything around that?
Yeah, all right. I might get myself in trouble here, but that's okay. I do have the OSCP. I do not recommend the OSCP, which I know is an unpopular opinion. What I would recommend is the PNPT through TCM Security. The reason I recommend the PNPT through TCM Security, there's kind of two reasons. The only downside is it doesn't yet have the full career recognition that the OSCP has, but it's much more affordable and it's way more realistic to a real environment. So for the PNPT, you get like a full week to do a pen test on an Active Directory environment, which is what you're going to be doing. And the training for the PNPT is incredible from Heath and his team. When I basically passed the OSCP with their training and with Hack the Box and Try Hack Me. Now, I will admit I took the OSCP in the 2022 edition. They have a new offering of the Pen 200 course, which is a course you're required to take for the OSCP. But when I took the OSCP, I did not have an employer who would pay for the training. So I spent $1,500 out of my own pocket for 3 months of training. I was expecting to get something like a Try Hack Me or Hack the Box Academy on steroids. And what I got, at least in my experience, was a very buggy lab environment. The training was not that awesome. And I did pass the OSCP, and I made a video how I passed the OSCP in 8 hours on my first attempt. But even the video, like the reason I passed the OSCP in 8 hours on my first attempt is because I didn't use the Pen 200 course. I used TCM Security, Try Hack Me, and Hack the Box Academy in order to pass the OSCP. So I am happy I got it. The cert itself was fun. The test itself was fun. But I have just not had a good experience with OffSec as a whole, and I've had a much better experience with TCM Security and the way they support their students. And one plug for TCM Security is, for once again, cheaper than the OSCP. They have, I think it's $1,000 pathway where you take the PNPT and they have career coaching built into that. And what that means is not only do you pass the PNPT, and at the end of the PNPT, you actually have to give a live debrief of your pen test report to senior pen testers, which is what we do as pen testers. So once again, a lot more realistic and hands-on to the real world. If you purchase the career coaching services option, you also get to go through an interview process, a resume process, a coaching process. And if you pass all of that, you get to be career certified by TCM Security, which means TCM Security would hire you themselves if they had a pen tester opening, and then they will share you with other people in their community and connections that they have. And TCM Security is very quickly becoming a leader in the field. So if you have the financial means to get the OSCP, get it. I would say that's still the fastest way to break into the pen testing field. But if you do not have the financial means to do that, I would get the PNPT. And if you're able to afford it, add the career coaching services on top of that, and you're going to be able to land a pen testing job with a much more affordable rate. And in my opinion, a much more supportive organization. So now that I just made everyone at OffSec mad, feel free to let me know in my YouTube comments how mad you are at me, but that's okay. I've been pretty upfront how I feel about OffSec and the OSCP. So I have it. They haven't taken away my OSCP yet from the comments I've made. So we're still good, but I would still very much encourage PNPT over OSCP today. And I think 10 years from now, maybe less, the PNPT will take over. I think that will be the leading cert for pen testing. It's just not there yet because it's new, but give it time. I really do think it'll take over.
Matt, Tyler, thank you. Do you know what I think it is? I don't even, with the whole OSC PNPT thing, it's not even the companies that employ the pen tester. On a consultancy basis, it's their clients. Does that make sense? If they've got, if you're a small consultancy in, I don't know, New York, and you're doing pen tests for Fortune 500, if they're saying to you, we want OSCP pen test, do you get what I mean? So I think that's why it's taking so long to come through. But, mate, really informative. Love that. Anyone listening, please make sure you're taking notes, because like there is just, I'm taking notes, by the way, as you're talking, Tyler. So there's just every answer you're giving, mate, is just packed full of useful information. You mentioned just then when you answered the question about a video that you've put online. Is that on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's my most popular one. It's just titled
Cool.
"How I Passed the OSCP in 8
Easy.
hours," and actually, I was stuck for the first 5 hours of the OSCP. Almost gave up, but figured out how I was stuck. So really, I passed it in 3 hours because once I was no longer stuck, I got to 80 points and I was done and I wrote my reports. I was happy about that, but I don't wanna hate on OSCP too much. The exam itself was really fun, and I think a really good test of whether or not you're going to make it as a pen tester because of the time pressure, the time crunch that you have, and you really have to think on your feet because the tools you're used to using may not work. They may be broken, and you have to be able to pivot. So when I even speak about the OSCP, I try to differentiate between the training and the certification. The certification, solid. The exam, solid. I can't talk at all about the exam. They have very strict rules about that, and I don't want them to take away my OSCP. But the exam, a really fun experience, really smooth experience. It's the training that you're forced to pay to take the exam that I probably have the biggest issue with. Just to clarify on that, to make the OffSec people maybe a little less mad at me.
Okay, cool. So OSCP certification, we do think it's worth it. It's definitely worth taking, but combine it with, it's all on the YouTube video anyway, but combine it with the PMPT training.
You got
That's going to be the perfect cocktail.
There we go. We'll do that. We'll make them happy. I just said to be nice, but
Okay.
that's me being nice. Those are my thoughts though on certifications. And people can argue all day, and I will just say, hey, we can disagree on OffSec as an org, and we can still be friends, right? Even if you work for OffSec, let's hang out at DEF CON. I'm sure you're an awesome person. Hopefully I'm an awesome person, and we can be friends regardless of how we feel about these secondary issues.
Brilliant. So Tyler, you don't seem like the type of guy to me that's chilling out anytime soon. You have got loads going on, loads moving, obviously doing loads in the community above and beyond. What's the future plan? So for anyone listening that's maybe they're active, maybe they're pretty active in the community. Maybe I'm InfoSec Pat listening and I'm thinking my brand's strong as well. Tyler's brand's strong. What's the next step ahead? Is there anything else in the pipeline that you're thinking of doing, or anything else that anyone listening can do to enhance personal brands further, give back more, help out in the community more?
Yeah, probably my next step is just to partner more with orgs like Try Hack Me. So even this Red Team Capstone network that came out, they selected 4 content creators to live stream the content as we go through it. And I happen to be one of those selected. So the InfoSec Pat also was one of the ones selected. And so it's partnering with organizations such as Try Hack Me. My passion really is training, teaching, and mentoring. So even my future career trajectory, like I love Rhino. I'll probably hopefully be at Rhino for a long time. I actually took a pay cut to become a pen tester. I was on the blue team side before becoming a pen tester, but I'm probably different than some that money really is not much of motivation to me. Like when I was a pastor, I was making a third of what I make now, but I have the same exact lifestyle. I haven't changed anything about the way I live. What motivates me is being able to help people and seeing some things that I contribute be valued, which really is valued at Rhino. Even as an associate pen tester, I meet with Ben, who's the CEO. I have a one-on-one with him every 2 weeks, and we talk about content creation and ideas and ways we can give back to the InfoSec community. So for my career, I hope to stay at Rhino for a long time, but my side hobby that makes me no money is content creation. And I would love to partner more with orgs like Try Hack Me and Hack the Box and even TCM Security to emphasize affordable training, mentoring, coaching in a way that's not predatory and in a way that's not like I'm trying to get something out of you, but truly in a way that's mutually helpful. Would be my goal to really just continue to give back to the community and build community. That'll be my goal for the next however long until I become a lawyer, of course.
Mate, by the way, that mentality the money will follow anyway, because any hyper successful businessman or woman that I know in my own personal life, they've never chased the money. They chase the success, they chase providing a good service, they chase doing things properly, and that it all just follows. So that mentality that you've got, stick with it, and everything will just fall into place anyway. I like that idea about getting into the training more and stuff like that. I think, yeah, it's heading that way massively anyway. Why not make it like a dual business with what you do? Like loads to do there. Yeah. You said something to me, but just before we hit record, you said something to me about, it was something along the lines of, I'm going to leverage communication to get into pen testing, or you leverage your old skills to get in. Can you talk to me about that? Because communication is And I said this on another pod. When we get off, if I do a post on communication, it might get some traction, but not much. But if I do a post on something super technical, it'll get way more traction. But the communication piece for you is obviously really important. It's something you've leveraged. I personally think it's key to your career trajectory and you moving forward faster than most. Can you talk to us a bit about that, the kind of level of importance that you place on communication?
Absolutely. So when it comes to pen testing and cybersecurity in general, there's a lot of engineers. A lot of people are way smarter than me. But I think what helps me stand out is my ability to communicate and my ability to talk. And if other people can develop that, it'll also help them stand out. And the way you develop this is, once again, you have to do it. You have to be uncomfortable. You have to speak. If you get speaking opportunities, even at the local event, speaking to like a lunch group about phishing emails, take it. Every opportunity you get to speak, take those opportunities so you can learn to grow in that. That will help your personal branding, which we talked a lot about. But if you want to become a pen tester, I don't think many potential pen testers understand just how much we communicate as a pen tester. So, for example, in my role as a pen tester, every week we often meet with clients. These are clients that we're getting ready to do a pen test on, and it's a pretty in-depth conversation about their technology stack, their applications, whatever it is. So, yes, you need to know the technology side of it, but you have to be able to speak to clients. And depending on the client, they may not be super technical. They may have an understanding of what's going on, but they're not highly technical. And engineering types have this tendency to make other people feel stupid. And I think we do that because we use too big of words. We don't realize that we're doing it, but we just don't know how to talk to non-technical people. So you need to learn how to come across as relatable and friendly and explain technical concepts, but in a non-technical way so they can understand. The other big thing we do as pen testers is at the end of every engagement. So if we have a 5-day engagement, we'll do 4 days of active testing. And the last day is always dedicated to a report, which I don't think we talk a whole lot about. But a pen test report could be 20, 30 pages long, where you explain the scope of the pen test, where you explain every vulnerability that you found, the steps that you exploited to get to that vulnerability, suggested ways to remediate that vulnerability. And then often what the client will request is a debrief, which I kind of picture like a Twitch live stream. On the debrief, what you do is you share your screen with the report, and you have to walk the client through step by step every vulnerability you found in their environment, step by step how you exploited the vulnerability, and then answer questions on the spot. So they're going to they're going to ask you questions, and you have to be good on your feet like this. They're not going to send you the questions ahead of time. Hey, here's the questions I'm going to ask you. You have to be ready for them and be prepared to answer them, and be confident enough to say, I don't know. One of the worst things that you can do as a pen tester is to be confidently wrong about how to remediate or fix a vulnerability, only to have the client take your advice and it bricks their environment, bricks their machine as a worst case scenario because you are confidently wrong. So one of the biggest things to being a good pen tester is being willing to say, I don't know. Let me follow with my team. For me, it would be let me follow with a senior pen tester in the Rhino team so I can confirm the details, because I don't want to give you information that's not correct. So debrief, communication is good. And people would say humility, but I would say confidence. Confidence to say, I don't know. The people who are unwilling to say, I don't know, is because they're not confident, is what I've noticed. Those who over-explain a concept is because they're not confident in their understanding of the concept. So have the confidence to say, I don't know. Do not be confidently wrong. Pen testers will find out in the interview process. They'll find out pen testers are smart. They do social engineering for a job. So you're not going to trick them in the interview. Say, I don't know. Saying I don't know will help your career go farther than you think.
Thanks, Tyler. And you know what's so fascinating for me as a hosting this is I get consistencies across episodes, and we've just hit on one now. And Tim, the founder of Red Siege, he does that in an interview. He asks a question. He said it on the pod. We're not released the episode yet, but he said on the pod, I ask a question that you will not know the answer to, because he's looking for that ability to say, hands up, I'm sorry, I don't know. So I know you're right, because I'm hearing it from founders, CEOs, and business leaders that are employing pen testers. So I know for a fact you're right. Have you used something called Loom, by the way, Tyler? Loom. It's like a recorded. You can record the video, share your screen. You can flip to different parts of a report in pen testing. We use it in recruitment, but that could be pretty cool. Loom. I'll send you the.
I'll check it out. Yeah, I've
I'll
heard of
send
it.
you.
I've heard of it because I saw people post it, but I've never looked into it. So yeah, send it over to me. I would love to check it out and what I can use it for.
I'm pretty sure it's free, but yeah, it could be really useful for reporting. And also, if people can't remember everything on a live stream, it could be good for them to have in kind of a follow up after the report's been delivered.
Helpful.
Yeah, cool. I noticed you've got a couple of cloud certifications. I'm hearing from different clients at the minute that cloud is a chance to getting good at cloud security. I noticed something that you guys over at Rhino were notoriously good at, especially AWS. You've picked an Azure cert, you've picked CSP. Can you tell us about anything you've learned to do with cloud? I do see it as a chance to accelerate progression at the minute, and I know there's a huge demand. So, what can the listeners learn from what you've picked up there?
Yeah, so honestly, my certifications probably aren't as helpful as just the hands-on labs I've done. So as certifications, I think I have the AZ900, which is like an introduction to Azure. And then I have the CCSP, which is a certified cloud security professional through ISC Squared. I think I have that. What is vendor agnostic cert? So it doesn't focus on any one cloud provider, but
Mhm.
rather covers overall cloud security concepts. Now, that's different than AWS pen testing or auditing, whatever you want to call it. Like even a cloud pen test is a little bit different than a typical pen test, the way that you approach it. For those kinds of things, what has been really helpful for me, and I'm not just saying this because I work at Rhino, but CloudGo is a vulnerable AWS kind of lab that you set up in your own AWS environment. And there's different CloudGo scenarios, which basically serve as CTFs. There's a beginning point, there's an end goal. We have notes on how you can accomplish that goal, but it really gives you a hands-on work using the AWS command line interface, which is confusing at it's still, I was going to say confusing at first. It's still confusing because everything is so long when you try to do simple things. That helps you understand how AWS names weird service offerings. Like they'll have a service offering that scans websites or something. They'll call it like Yellowbird or something strange like that. Amazon always has the strangest name for all their services, but you don't begin to notice that until you really get hands on with it. And it's one thing to take like an AWS cert, which is often on the blue team defensive side. That's helpful, but there's really not too many certifications, at least I'm aware of, that teach you pen testing AWS or GCP or Azure. A lot of that you have to do on your lab, in your own lab and in your own time. Even platforms like Hack the Box and Try Hack Me, they'll have some cloud training, but it's often limited to business users because of the cost it takes to stand up cloud infrastructure. So CloudGoat is one big thing that I've learned for AWS. There's also flaws2.cloud and flaws.cloud, which are all in the browser, which give you access to AWS resources and that teach you both attacking and defending AWS. So although I have certifications and those look better on a resume, my actual knowledge of AWS and cloud pen testing has all come through like labs I found on GitHub, to be honest, CloudGo being a big one of them. And do CloudGo and live stream it. Once again, I think, a 20 video series on my YouTube page called Learn AWS Pen Testing. But it's not me, the expert, teaching you. This is, hey, watch me get frustrated as I learn AWS pen testing, but let's do it together. So I have a whole series on my YouTube page on how to learn AWS pen testing, but it's just me stumbling through stuff. It's me learning it live, and hopefully you learn it with me is the goal.
Yeah. Thanks, Tyler. Any others on Git? You mentioned Cloud. Any others on GitHub that have been useful? You said a few, you mentioned one, but you said a few. What are the others?
Sure. So CloudGoat for sure on GitHub. You have Flaws Cloud, which isn't GitHub, that's a website. You have Azure Goat, which is of course Azure one, and I think there's also GCP Goat, which is the Google Cloud platform as well. So I think those are the big ones on GitHub, and they all work in similar ways. You first set up your own environment in that cloud infrastructure. You'll create a user with admin permissions, and then it's all through like Terraform or infrastructure as a code that stands up everything that you need in the cloud platform so that you can practice pen testing in your own safe, secure environment. The one thing I know CloudGoat does, I'm not sure if the other ones do. So like on CloudGoat, when you launch resources, we have a whitelist that whitelists your IP because, of course, you're launching vulnerable resources in the cloud, which you can imagine if those resources are internet facing for anyone to access, you might get your own AWS environment pwned very quickly. Just being careful about the IP rules that you're setting. And also, if you do this, please do not do it in your company's like AWS account. So if your company has a production AWS account, do not launch CloudGoat in that account because you are deploying vulnerable resources in your company's AWS account. Make sure you make your own sandbox account. You can deploy, I think, every CloudGo resource in a free tier AWS account, for example. So just be careful how you use those tools because you are deploying them in your own environment. Don't do it to your company's environment, in other words.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. I think basically take a really linear approach to learning. And I know that's hard to do. I know from different recruitment training I've done, you're like, get the online pack, you jump straight to like chapter 10 because you really want to learn about one particular thing. But yeah, take a linear approach, do things properly. And just to pick you up on about the names of the acronyms within cloud, we need to track this person down and say, what? Like, they're just crazy, the names, aren't they? But yeah, I know I said an hour, Tyler, and I always go over, so thanks for staying longer, mate. I know you're a busy chap. I really like what you said about don't put too much importance on things, don't attach yourself to two things. And it's the rule of the universe. I think if you push something too hard and you want it so bad, it never happens. If you just go, oh, look, if it happens to get OSCP, I get OSCP, I get PMPT, I'm not saying don't try hard, I'm not saying don't prepare, I'm not saying don't do your best, but I think if you have that attitude, I think things in general in life just flow and happen. I think it's a really good point to make. And then just on burnout as well, I think I work some big days, but not every day. If I'm the times when I do it, and you tell me what you think of this, and perhaps there's some bits that the listeners can take. But I think on burnout, look, if you feel like doing it, I think just do it. There is days where you just want to go hard and really do it, and it's loads of fun. But there is other days where you don't feel like it. And I think it's those days where perhaps you have had a mammoth week and you're just forcing it because you're stressed. I think that's the area where it gets dangerous. But I don't know what your thoughts are on it, mate.
Yeah, I agree, maybe with a small caveat. It depends on the season of life that you're in. For example, I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. So I could work all day and grind it out, but my kids aren't going to see me. And I think far too many kids, this may be the millennial in me coming out as opposed to maybe later generations, but far too many kids have grown up in the past without their parents because their parents are so focused on providing income for the family that they didn't provide time. You can always make more money. You cannot make more time. So I would just strongly encourage those, especially with young kids, but even teenagers. I just don't have teenagers. So I don't know what it's like, but especially with young kids, your kids, I think I saw this post on LinkedIn. The only person who's going to remember you worked nonstop 20 years from now are going to be your kids. It's not going to be the people on LinkedIn who saw Tyler Ramsbey on Twitch. It's going to be my kids who never saw me go outside and do sidewalk chalk with them or play ball with them. So I really make that my priority. So I work typical like 9 to 5. When I'm off at 5, I'm done. Like, I'm not going to keep working and then I go have supper and then I'm outside with my kids and my focus is them, to be present to them. And I'm only back online after my wife and my kids are asleep. So my goal is to be fully present to them. And then on the weekends, same thing. So like tomorrow's Saturday. It's my kid's favorite day. My wife often goes shopping, but it's Daddy Ava Elijah Day. Those are the names of my kids. Like they celebrate that on Friday because they know on Saturday when we wake up, we're going to make pancakes. We're going to go to a park.
Yeah.
We're not on computers. I'm not on devices. They are so much more important than a silly hack the box machine. So that would be my caveat. Be very careful if you have young kids to make sure you are not sacrificing them because you feel like I can work harder. You can work harder, but it's not going to pay off when your kids have no relationship with you because you spend all your time at your job.
No, thank you, Tyler. And I think the other thing to just finally add to that is you can work smarter. Like, mate, you're working really smart. Like the stuff you're doing online and the stuff you're doing in the community, it's helping so many people. It's helping your career. That is working really smart. And you're probably helping more people than me and you even realize. So listen, it's the best way to do it. Have a balanced approach, work smarter. We live in the age of the internet where all this information's available. Like, we can all learn how to do things. It's all there. We've all got the same info. It's super transparent. But listen, mate, this has been packed full of info. I've really enjoyed it. Is there anything I've missed, or because I'm not used to freestyling? You
Sure.
convinced me.
No, I think we covered everything from my perspective. I'm sure there's always more that we can dig into. I think final words of advice is just do it, right? Just do it. Dive into it. Start creating content. Start learning. Join the WorkSmarter community. Hang out with me on Mondays. Would love to meet you, encourage you, do anything I can to help you in your own career journey and trajectory. And finally, the big thing I always try to highlight is mental health is important, right? Your mental health, your family health, your emotional health is more important than any job or any career. So make sure you do not lose focus of that as you continue this cybersecurity journey.
Definitely. Tyler, my friend, thank you, buddy, and I'll see you soon.
Cool. Thank you.